Hello everyone. I had a request to make a video about finding the vertex in the different forms. So that's what we're going to do today. So when you are finding the vertex, just a little bit more information. So remember, the vertex is the center of the graph. So the vertex is the center of the graph. It's also the point where your parabola changes direction. So what I mean by that, let's say we have a parabola right here. So if I look at the left half of the graph, my left half, when I read it from left to right, it is decreasing. It's going down. It has a negative slope. So it is decreasing all the way down to this point right here. Once it hits this point, it changes from decreasing to increasing. So all of a sudden it changes so that it has a positive slope. So the vertex is where it's changing direction. It changes from a negative slope to a positive slope, or from decreasing to increasing. So that center point, the vertex, is going to be really, really important, which is why normally it is one of the first things we find. So let's flip the page. To find the vertex, there are a couple of different ways to find it depending on the formula or the type of equation that you're given. When it comes to quadratic equations, we have multiple forms. So the first type of quadratic is called intercept or factored form. And that name should make sense. So this equation looks like it's already been factored. So for example, we could have x plus 4 and x minus 6. So this equation in green is an example of factored form. So when you were given an equation in this format, it is called intercept form because the intercepts are built right into the equation. So if I were trying to find something first, the first thing that jumps out to me is I have my two factors, which means I can easily find my two x intercepts. So that's what I'm going to do first. So I'm just solving my little mini equations to find the x-intercepts. So I get a negative 4 and a positive 6. So these are my x-intercepts. So now that I have those intercepts, the easiest way to find the vertex is to take the average of those 2 points. So I added the steps to find the vertex. So again, this is what you want to use when you have this factored format. So remember, your vertex is a point, which means it has to have an x and a y value. To find the x value, you want to take the average of those two x-intercepts. So I'm going to say x equals, and I'm taking the average of negative 4 and 6. So I'm going to add them up and divide by how many items there are, which are 2. So I have a positive 2 divided by 2, which is a 1. So the x value of my vertex is a 1. So now what I'm going to do is find the y value. So I'm going to take the number that I just found, that 1, and plug it back into my original equation. So everywhere I see an x, I'm going to plug in a 1. So I have 1 plus 4 and 1 minus 6. So now all I have to do is simplify my two groups. So 1 plus 4 is 5. 1 minus 6 is negative 5. So my y value of the vertex is a negative 25. So my final vertex, my x value is 1. My y value is negative 25. So this is how you want to find the vertex when you are given intercept or factored form. Next thing we're going to look at is standard form. So this is our second equation, second type of quadratic. And this one we've already talked about multiple times, so it's that y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. So let's say, for example, I have this equation in standard form. 3x squared plus 12x minus 1. So if I just look at my equation, I can't really tell any information right away. Like I can't find my zeros right away. Or I'm sorry, my x-intercepts right away. A zero is another name for the x-intercept. So what I want to do here to find the vertex, what you could do is change the format so that it's in factored form. So what you could do with this equation is change it or solve it by factoring. So you can change it to factored form and then go through those steps on the last slide. What I want to do is show you guys a different way. So the other way you can find the vertex is using a little mini formula. So to find the x value of the vertex, you want to use the mini equation negative b over 2a. So the b and the a you take directly from your equation, and then to find the y value of the vertex, you're going to plug that x value into the equation. So let's go ahead and show you guys how to do that part. I think when you're given an equation in standard form, this is the easiest or fastest way to find your vertex. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to find our x value is negative b over 2a. If I go back to my equation here, a is the number with the x squared, so that's 3. B is the number with the plain x, so that's 12. So I have a negative, because remember my formula has a negative b. So negative 12 over 2 times a, which was 3. So now I'm just going to simplify this fraction. I have negative 12 divided by 6, which is a negative 2. So that gives me the x value of my vertex. To find the y value, what I'm going to do is plug that number in for all the x's in my original equation. So I have 3 times the new x value, which is negative 2, plus 12 times negative 2, and then minus 1. So now I'm just going to go through and simplify my equation. So PEMDAS order of operations tells me I have to do the exponents first. So let's change color. So my exponent, I have negative 2 squared is positive 4. And then I'm going to do my multiplication. So I have 12 minus 24 minus 1. And if I simplify that, I get a negative 13. So again, this was my x value, this was my y value. So for my vertex, that center point, it would be a negative 2 and a negative 13. So this would be how to find the vertex when you're given standard form. Now, there is one more format, the third and final one, which is called vertex form. And this is called vertex form because the vertex is built right into the equation. So I'm going to show you what I mean by that. So the standard format for vertex form is a times x minus h squared plus k. So this is a lot of letters, but all those letters give us the vertex. So in vertex form, the vertex is the h and the k value. So if I look, h and k are in the equation, so all I have to do is pull out those two numbers and I have the vertex. So that's why vertex form is one of the best forms for finding the vertex. So let me show you guys an example. Let's say I had y equals 2 times x minus 5 squared plus 1. So let's say my direction said to find the vertex. I want to pull out the h and the k value. So the only tricky part about this is when you pull out the h value, you have to take out the opposite sign. So right here I see x minus 5. When I take out h, I want to take out the opposite. So h is actually going to be a positive 5, and then k will always stay the same. So my vertex is just 5 and 1. So notice my vertex is not an equation, it's a point. So this equation is in vertex form, but this point is my actual vertex. Let's take a look at one more just so you guys can see what I mean with those signs. Let's say I have -3x plus 4 squared minus 6. So again, all I have to do is take out the h and the k value. So I have x plus 4, that's my h, but I have to take out the opposite sign. So if I see x plus 4, my h value is going to be a -4. The k value always stays exactly the same, so it is a -6. So your vertex is -4 and -6. So the only tricky part is you have to make sure you take out the opposite sign for h. K will stay exactly the same. So hopefully this cleared up some of your questions about the 3 formats. If you are more comfortable with one way versus another, you can always change your equation and change it into one of those other formats. If you have questions with that, please let me know and I can create another video that goes over how to do those things. So good luck with your graphing quadratic section.